Hey guys, Louis Dangle here from Give Me Sport, and I'm joined by a very special guest ahead of a very big match. And actually, the last AEW interview I had was Eddie Kingston before his match with CM Punk. So it seems like maybe I'm just like AEW's go-to for an interview before a big match with CM Punk. Sounds good to me. But we're here with Wardlow. Man, how you holding up?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. I had some very interesting questions come through from people when I asked for some when
Excellent.
we were speaking to you. So we'll get on to talking about them. But before we do, I wanted to ask for you, obviously facing CM Punk tomorrow on AEW Dynamite, a huge match. Where does this rank in your career for you in terms of big matches? Is this the biggest? Or would you, for me, like when I was thinking about it, I guess the other one that came to mind was the cage match with Cody. For you, where does this match rank in terms of the biggest for you in your career?
Man, it is debatable that this is the biggest match of my entire career. Like you said, the other one that came into my mind, obviously, that we can rank where there is the cage match with Cody. So they're very, very level. Now, the reason this one's a little special, CM Punk. Not only is it CM Punk, it's the fact that he was retired for how many years. So I knew Cody was a possibility. I knew Chris Jericho was a possibility. All these names were possible. CM Punk was one that never crossed my mind. I never thought in a million years I would be stepping in the ring with CM Punk. So I guess that throws a little, he was the biggest name in wrestling when he left. And they were still chanting, they've still been chanting his name for the past 7 years. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy that is the Rock level, which is insane to think about. So, yeah, it's a big one.
It is, and I think for a lot of people, like you said, it's that when you joined AW after we saw the match with Cody, we were like, okay, there are dream matches we'd like to see. But as you said, no one thought CM Punk because no one thought it was a possibility. It would be like throwing, I don't know, Stone Cold's name out there. It's like, yeah, cool, but just gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then it does happen, and you're like, wow. So for you, when you hear that this match is a possibility, obviously you saw him and MJF start to have their little spat. Did you think this could be a chance here? I could be factored into the plans for a match with Punk before they eventually reach their destination of a match with each other. Is that something that goes on in your head, sort of when MJF has a feud? Do you think, damn, before they get to him, it's going to be me, and that's pretty cool?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that's the blueprint for every MJF feud. So I know going into Max's feud, I am also feuding with that individual. So it is pretty wild, as he goes through Cody, then Jericho. I mean, he just levels up every time. So it makes me level up every time. It's a unique thing.
And I guess one of the things that people think of MJF, like a lot of the criticism, not the criticism he gets, but a lot of say like, oh, he's great on the mic. I think it actually takes away from the fact that he's a hell of a wrestler, and people don't think that because of how great he is on the mic. So, what are your, I guess, assessments of MJF, taking potentially your sort of objective view of the situation and learning from him? I know you both are very young guys, but learning from him, what are some of the things you picked up from him while working with him for the last year or so?
Oh boy. I mean, if there's one thing I think I've learned from him is maybe the business aspect, because that guy squeezes every penny out of every person that offers him any amount of money. And he really shoots for the stars when it comes to rates. So the business aspect, I would say, is what I've learned most from MJF.
And I guess that's just as important. Like people think often, oh no, just what you learn in terms of in the ring is important. But I mean, how to conduct yourself backstage, how to conduct business is just as important. But before we get on speaking more generally about yourself, AEW, Obviously, I'm sure you saw it as well. When Tony Khan was, I think he was at a Jaguars game, and he had the card for Full Gear, and it had you and CM Punk on that card. Was that the first you'd heard of any rumblings? Had you heard anything beforehand? And I guess it's not happening at Full Gear; it's happening on a Dynamite. Is there a little part of you that wishes it was on pay-per-view?
So a little bit, only because I have yet to have an actual pay-per-view match.
Yeah.
Over 2 years, I haven't been on a pay-per-view. So you can argue Stadium Stampede. Technically, yes, it was the main event of the biggest pay-per-view, but I was in a freezer meat locker. So not quite the same. Yeah. So yes, I am anxious to get my first in-ring pay-per-view appearance in. However, I'm also a big believer in everything happens for a reason, and everything is happening exactly the way it's supposed to. So that does not bother me. And obviously, yes, a very, very rare slip up by Tony Khan at that football game, which I think put a swerve in the plans.
You say that it's so rare that people thought it was planned. People are like, he doesn't make mistakes. It can't be.
He does it. Yeah, he's a genius. So you never know.
Yeah, but I mean, you spoke about not having that sort of pay-per-view match, but people forget your first video package for AEW was on a pay-per-view. Like, this was before anyone really knew who Wardlow was, what Wardlow was all about. So to think where that started and where you are now, sort of speak to us about that journey. When that video package aired, was the intention always to pair you with MJF, or is that something that I guess came later?
It came a little later. I think that first video, kind of showed what direction we may be going with me. And then I think shortly after that, they took a little swerve with the MJF, and I don't really know who came up with that or who said, hey, let's try this out. But they went with it, and I think thus far it's worked pretty damn well.
I'd agree. And obviously you're not only partnered with him, you as the Pinnacle are working all together. And one thing that we've all loved seeing recently with Sean Spears at ringside has been your sort of power bombs that have been going on, where you're playing with the crowd a bit. And it seems like, from our point of view anyway, you're having a lot of fun with what you're doing. Where did that sort of come about, the whole sort of power bombing and playing with the crowd a little bit? And it feels a lot like, I guess, audience participation. Was that something you suggested? And how are you enjoying, I guess, being able to show that side of yourself?
So this actually started as a Jericho recommendation to me. He was just like, you know how Brock suplexes people over and over? It's like, what if you just powerbomb people over and over? And I think it might have been a little bit of a rib by Jericho, like, hey, let's see your big ass powerbomb, 250-pound person as many times as you can in a match. But I'm not one to shy away from a challenge. And fortunately, I am Mr. Mayhem. I love wreaking havoc. So powerbombing people until they are pancakes, as you can see with the smile on my face as I do it, I enjoy it dearly. And I've been having so much fun every time I step in the ring the past couple months.
And I guess on the note of that, like, people probably don't appreciate, it's a lot. Like, I've never stepped in a ring, in case you couldn't tell, but that seems like it's a lot of cardio, and it's going to take a lot out of you, picking someone up, throwing them down, picking someone up, throwing them down. Do people not appreciate just how hard it is to powerbomb someone over and over and over and over and over again?
Yeah, there's a reason you don't see everybody doing it.
Only the best can. Only the best can. But on the note, you seem like you're enjoying your work at the moment, and you mentioned that, which is great to see. But I want to speak a little bit about what you want in the future. I know a lot of what you've been doing at the moment has been with MJF in mind, and kind of all MJF. Like you said, when you're in a feud, it's often because MJF is feuding with that person. Where do you see yourself? Do you always see yourself being linked with MJF in some way? Do you see yourselves being more, I guess, equals and as a tag team somewhere down the line? Or do you almost want to go off and not do your own thing and have this sort of big blow off feud with him, but maybe, I guess, go off and splinter off and do your own big singles run?
Yeah, I mean, whatever happens with me and Max, you know, who knows what happens with us and the contract that I have with him. You know, that's to be seen. But whether I'm associated with him in the future, not associated with him in the future, wherever the road leads, me personally, I want to accomplish as much as I humanly possibly can. You know, professional wrestling's really been the only thing I've truly been passionate about my entire life. So all of my goals are all pro wrestling based. You know, I want to hold the TNT title. I want to hold the AEW World title. If I could find somebody competent enough, I would like to hold the tag team titles. You know, I want to be one of the guys that accomplishes everything he can, main events, you know, the biggest matches. I just want my name put in that pool of the greatest one day. It's really all I care about.
And I guess, so when I do these kind of interviews, I don't like speaking about other companies and other things like that, because it's just, we're here to talk AEW. But one thing that I guess a lot of people, when I was asking for questions for you, and it comes under you saying things that you want to accomplish in pro wrestling, brought up the Royal Rumble. And that's obviously something we've seen recently with Mickey James, that WWE may be looking to get some other people involved in that vein. Reports have all stated that there may be someone in the men's match from another company through the forbidden door. Would that be something that interested you? Would you be looking maybe again for that pro wrestling, I guess, accomplishments list? Work with other companies, whether that be WWE in the Royal Rumble, whether that be New Japan, where we've seen AEW talents go, whether that be Ring of Honor when they return, Impact Wrestling. Is that something that I guess is on your bucket list as well?
If Tony Khan truly, genuinely wanted to do that, I would be up for that. But that would have to be if Tony wants it. If he was on the fence, I wouldn't do it. Obviously, the Royal Rumble, historic event. It always lands around my birthday in January every year, so it was always a special event for me as a kid. So to be a part of that, I'm sure would be very cool. However, I am more than happy and content with AEW, and if I am born and I die in AEW, I am very happy.
And I guess that means that MJF, who has been teasing potentially starting a bidding war, do you come with him? Are you guys a package deal?
As of right now, the contract, yes. So if he decided to jump ship while I'm still under contract with him, I guess I'm jumping with him. But
awesome. I mean, it's good to hear from your point of view anyway, that AEW is your home. And I guess a lot of people, that is the great part of AEW, where it seems like so many talents are so happy there. And that's what I can see. I wanted to speak to you about the backstage environment in AEW. We heard, I know Chris Jericho, who you guys are feuded with, you just mentioned was suggested a great idea for you, and something that with the Powerbomb, something that you've then implemented. Is the atmosphere within AEW very much like, right, we don't care who you are, what you're doing on screen, whether I'm partnered with you on screen or not, I am going to help you in any way possible? And I guess, what is some advice, maybe the best piece of advice you picked up from someone, and who was that person?
So this was a frequently asked question, and I always give major props, starting with FTR, Cash Dax, and Sean Spears, the Pinnacle boys. Those guys, they're so good at what they do, and they've been doing it for a long time. So to be able to sit down with them and get their advice and their knowledge since the Pinnacle started, even since before the Pinnacle started, they kind of took me under their wing. So I've always been super appreciative of those three individuals. And then, you know, I have good conversations with Mark Henry. I forgot to mention I feel horrible now. The Big Show and Mark Henry have helped me a lot. They obviously very big, large men. So they kind of take the bigger guys under their wing. So Mark Henry and Big Show, who I have forgotten to mention previously, have helped me huge. Arn Anderson as well, great advice. Jerry Lynn helps people so much. He's an absolute angel. And the person that gives me the most advice and has taken me under their wing has been Billy Gunn. And Billy Gunn gives me something every single week to work on. And I am so appreciative of him. And just after every match, he is there to talk to me. And it's incredible how much everybody backstage is willing to help. And then my go-to is most definitely Cody, which I touched on this. I've read recently that he's unapproachable. And that is so far from the truth. He's the most approachable person backstage. You can go to him for anything. And when I do have something real that I need your advice or your opinion, it's always Cody that I go to.
Awesome. And on that note, is there anyone whose mind has surprised you? Maybe in a way where you've been in the ring with them, or you've been in a backstage meeting that you've gone, wow, your mind is actually amazing.
Gosh, I feel like I experience that often with people. When you first said it, the first person that came to my mind was actually Orange Cassidy.
Okay.
He has a great mind, and I got to experience it firsthand in a match where he just kind of stepped in and just gave these options that just made everything better for everyone. And it was just wow, do that more often. But he does. He'll if he hears somebody going over something, he'll step in and go, hey, why don't you try this? Or, hey, why don't you do this? And it's always great advice. But there's a lot of people backstage that have an incredible mind for this business.
And I guess on the note of Orange Cassidy, a lot of people whether his character and his gimmick is for you, it's up to you. But you can't take away from the fact what he does is incredibly hard to do. So he's got to be incredibly talented and have an incredible mind for this. But it's awesome to hear you mention him in that vein. And I guess one of the things when you mentioned Orange Cassidy that kind of made me think about it was we've seen with AEW, a lot of the criticisms that are leveled towards AEW is sometimes towards the over-reliance on wrestlers that made their names elsewhere. But people like you show that that's not the case. People like Orange Cassidy show that that's not the case. And I, in my view, think AEW has struck a great balance of, for example, the Pinnacle, right? MJF wasn't part of a bigger company before. You weren't part of a big company before, but Spears and FTR were. And I think there's a great balance between pairing maybe more inexperienced guys who haven't been on national TV before, younger guys with more experienced guys. Would you share in that assessment of AEW really striking the right balance of pairing experienced and non-experienced guys, younger guys and older guys, and kind of making them mesh together? So if someone clicks on their TV and goes, oh, I remember watching Chris Jericho when I was watching wrestling elsewhere, but who are these people with him? And then going in to check their work, for example, with his feud with Orange Cassidy. So do you think, kind of like a lot of other people, that is one of the strengths of AEW?
Absolutely. And there's so many examples of it. I mean, you look at Matt Hardy with Private Party, Sting with Darby. There's so many examples. It's almost like everybody, every single person, every tag team, every group has that veteran on their side. So I think it not only helps the young talent to have that example and have somebody to kind of guide them through their career, but it also gives us a little extra star power for people tuning in that go, oh, hey, that's Chris Jericho. I loved Chris Jericho. So now I'm going to be invested in the Inner Circle. Or I love Matt Hardy. So, oh man, I'm really starting to like Private Party. It really helps everybody all the way around head to toe.
Well, you mentioned that with the Pinnacle and kind of the group you've got going there. I think you guys all work perfectly together. But if you had to add someone to the group, Whether that be, I guess Spears is, I know still an active wrestler, but feels like a veteran because he's been doing it for so long and has experienced training wrestlers. And same with FTR, they feel like veterans almost because they're so throwback in their style. They feel like they almost should be from the 80s coming back. But who would you add in terms of a veteran or maybe even another active member of the roster, be that male or female, that you'd like to see maybe join the Pinnacle in some format, whether that be because they kind of fit the vibe you guys are going for, or you just like to work with them more closely?
Oh man, I've never thought about that. I don't know if there's anybody Pinnacle worthy. Maybe on the female side, probably Britt Baker has a Pinnacle vibe. On the male side, uniquely enough, I'd probably have to say Cody. He fits the suit and tie and luxury life, but I don't think MJF and Cody in the same team. We all know how that goes.
Well, I'm going to throw this out for you as a bit of a veteran pick. He's not part of AEW now, but I know you've spoken quite heavily about kind of the inspiration you took from Batista. Obviously, he's worked with Evolution before, kind of gets that suit style, the luxury style, has worked closely with Ric Flair. Would he be someone you'd like to see as part of a maybe dream Pinnacle one day, or do something with in wrestling one day? I know you spoke earlier, never say never in wrestling, and I know I'm sure if I asked you in this time last year, I said, hey, would you like to work with CM Punk? You probably would have gone, yeah, but it will never happen. Same with this. So would something with him, whether as part of the Pinnacle or him coming in for a match, would that be something? It's got to be something that is quite high up on your list.
Yeah, so you're right. I guess now that CM Punk is a possibility, anything is. Unfortunately, Dave has expressed he is done with the wrestling business.
Didn't CM Punk express that?
But yeah, CM Punk said that as well. So I guess we can't count it out. That would most definitely be a dream come true. Anything with Jeff Hardy or Batista would be absolutely surreal. But yeah, it's wild, man. You talk about like manifestation and destiny, and I was such a big Batista fan. And if you look at how his career started with Devon, very similar to how I started. And then the Evolution thing, very similar to the Pinnacle thing. You know, MJF and I have a very Triple H Batista relationship. So it's wild how things have panned out for my career compared to the one guy I really grew up watching. So that is unique. And if Batista ever came to AEW, oh my God, I would love to work with him, whether we were across the ring or together. Whatever we could do would be magic.
You could just see the wrestling fan in you light up there. But I will say probably one with the Jeff Hardy slightly more likely than the other with Batista. And listen, it's awesome to like see that mirroring. It's just something fans don't think about. But I got some questions from fans that I wanted to get to. One asked several times for your quad workout.
Quad?
Yeah, your leg, specifically quad. I specified, said, would you like to know the leg workout? And it was no, it was just a quad workout.
Okay. So it varies every about 16 weeks. But as of late, lots of front squats where you hold the bar in front of you instead of on your back. So that really isolates your quads. Leg presses, hack squats, front squats, lunges. Those are the main ones, and leg extensions. Pretty much the main.
I just feel tired listening to you.
And sprints. Sprints will give you some massive legs.
Okay, so we now have a question. And I'd like to specify, I won't tell you who it's from, but I'll give you a clue. It's a certain Max from New York, age 25. If that narrows it down.
Interesting. Okay.
His question is, why is MJF so much better than you?
Oh man.
Yes, in case you're wondering, MJF did DM me to ask you why he's so much better.
Isn't the correct answer he was born that way?
I think so. I think it was, and I think that'd probably earn you a bonus from him in saying that. So you played the game. You played the game well, and I do like that. But are you often having to keep up with MJF's, I guess, social media antics and his malarkey, and wondering what he's got you into in any given week or in any given interview, what he signed you up for?
I never know what I'm walking into. Never know what he's got planned for me. It's it's a unique thing.
So I did an interview with him several months ago where he, I think, said you'd suplex me if I ever spoke to you, which I guess would now be a power bomb. He also called me, I think he called me pube chin because I had like a crappy beard at the time. He also accused me of, and I quote, jerking off to Hermione Granger while watching Harry Potter. So I've had MJF just ruin me before.
There's one thing you can't deny. He's very entertaining.
He is. He's funny as well. He's very funny.
He's very funny.
Have you ever had to hold yourself back from laughing in a segment with him in the ring?
I've had to bite my tongue a few times.
Yeah.
I've had to bite my tongue a few times.
Is there anything you remember specifically that nearly tipped you over the edge that really got you? Because, I mean, bear in mind, I'm from the UK, right? I'm sitting in here often in bed at like 2 a.m. watching his segments, laughing. So I don't know how you do it in the ring, keeping a straight face.
I think the one time where I visibly had an expression on my face was during the Pillman promo.
Yeah.
The Pillman promo is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going to come out of this dude's mouth when he grabs a microphone.
So he doesn't tell you beforehand.
So I'm just as shocked as everybody else when he says it. So, yeah, I never know what I'm in for.
The thing is, you might be on the receiving end one day, so you got to be preparing.
Yeah, he better prepare for the day he's talk shit to me.
Awesome, man! It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And again, from the wrestling fan in me to I'm sure the wrestling fan in you, congratulations on the CM Punk match. It's got to be cool for you. And you absolutely kill it, I'm sure. Best of luck to you, and again, absolute pleasure to speak to you today. Before I let you go, is there anything you want to plug, draw people's attention to? Obviously, AEW Dynamite tomorrow night. I was about to say TNT, but it's now TBS over in the States.
Yes, that's what I was going to touch on. It's our second week.
Fire away.
Yeah. Last week was our first week on TBS. We had over 1 million viewers. So week 2 on TBS, 8 o'clock this Wednesday. Let's get over 1 million again. And let's light the show on fire with Wardlow versus CM Punk. And I think we're going to.
I'm sure you will. Obviously, in the UK as well, and other international markets, that's on Fight TV. Fantastic service. And you personally, people want to check out what you've got going on social media. Sort of where can people find you? What plugs have you
got? For social media, just Real Wardlow on Twitter and Instagram. That's about it.
I think the quickest plugs anyone. I always do this. I think that was the quickest and most smooth anyone's got. Normally they're like, let me check my name, let me go on, but no, that was quick. I like that.
No, just tune in this Wednesday to TBS. That's the only plug I need.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it as well.